Hi, I'm Alexa. I want to talk about hate, intense or passionate dislike. I want to talk about anger, a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. I want to talk about frustration, the feeling of being upset or annoyed, especially because of inability to change or achieve something. I want to talk about fear, an unpleasant, often strong emotion caused by anticipation or awareness of danger. There is a whole lot of fear, frustration, and anger right now. And unfortunately, a lot of people are calling it hate. Now, there is hate out there right now. An intense or passionate dislike. Now, I think of hate has to be sustained. It has to be something that drives the reasoning and the actions. Now, when you see policies being put out there, whether they're implemented or not, when you see people pushing policies that are absolutely based on the dislike, in strong dislike of someone else's identity, whether that is their sex, whether that is their race, whether that is their heritage, whether it is their religion, when you see policies being driven intentionally to disadvantage some of those, that's hate. That is pure, unending, continuous hate driving that person. Now, anger is, for me, and what I see in a lot of people, is a lot easier of an emotion to have and deal with than fear or pain. To be sad, to be scared, those can paralyze you. They can sort of get you knotted up where you're not able to do anything. And anger is an emotion that makes you need to do something and get that out of your body. It can push you into an action. And so it's a lot easier for some people, for many people, to feel angry than to feel the pain, to feel the fear, to feel other emotions like that. I have been watching, probably my whole life, but definitely over the past 10, 20 years, society, both around me in the microcosm that I'm in, but also in the macrocosm in our country, in the world, in different countries around the world. And as wealth inequality goes up, as cost of living goes up, as changes occur, and quickly, the advent of technology, the internet and computers, and how quickly and exponentially more quickly it progresses, it can feel like you're getting left behind if you're not aware of those changes or not able to keep up with them. That causes fear. 100% causes fear for any of us. We're human. That's normal. It's a literally one of the basic human emotions is fear. Frustration, trying to learn new things, not understanding something, being told you need to understand it. It's frustrating. I get it. I totally get it. And then back around to anger. It's easier to be angry, especially if someone says, well, that problem that you're having is caused by this person, so you can just be angry at them. There is 100% social stuff going on right now that is driven by pure hatred, by certain people who control certain media outlets, or information outlets, I should say. Not all of them are technically media. And having a scapegoat to avoid looking at our own lives and looking at, or even not just looking at it, but just feeling the emotions that we have, where we might not have accomplished everything we want. We might be not where we thought we would be at this certain point in our life, where Other people might have it better, which you don't know it, but it looks like it, right? But we only see like a little window into other people's lives. We don't see everything that's going on in them. So it's very easy to pretend, or to convince ourselves, I should say, that we're behind, we're not accomplished, we're not doing something, whatever it is. And instead of just feeling that feeling, we can get angry at others, especially when external voices that have absolutely no skin in the game in terms of like your personal interactions with other people tell you should be angry at someone else. I have multiple different social media type things, accounts, and I use them for different things. So this one is obviously a very public one. This is where I come and talk about things that I find fascinating, things that I think are important. And really, it's a hobby to help myself get better at, one, thinking on my feet with certain notes written down, and two, to be much more natural, less scared as I progress through my career and do things like present. So last weekend, I missed a video. My apologies. I was away. And I actually left on the Sunday, but I was rushing to get stuff done. And Saturday just didn't happen. I just didn't get a video done. Having done this now for over a year, I've picked up tips and tricks, and I have become more natural in my thinking and more aware of things like my facial expression, things like my hand movement, and what are those things that can then be translated into a live speech. So I think I did very well. I was presenting. I feel like I did very well. But this is what I use this platform for. I'm not putting out here my like day-to-day, fully personal, like my friendships, my family. I'm not putting all of that up here. I have different account. I'm not putting up all of my professional stuff here. I have a different account or whatever for those, right? More, whatever accounts I have. I have different accounts. Most people do. Now, if you only follow me on one, you're only getting a snapshot of my life too. So I do worry that where I choose to be my most vocal self on certain causes that I'm passionate about, do the people on there look at me, and because it's not a video, because they can't hear my tone of voice, because they can't see my facial expressions, do they think I'm sitting here like growling and like, like angry? Because I'm not. I mean, there is some anger and there is some frustration that I don't understand how people can see dehumanizing human rights violations occurring and think it's okay. Because it's not happening to them, it's okay. And I genuinely do not understand, especially when I know people and I'm like, if this, even a fraction of what this would happen to you personally, holy hell, you would not ever shut up about it. You would be horrified. You would be screaming from the rooftops. You would be, this is unacceptable. Like, they would flip their lid, metaphorically, right? But they don't care. They like pass it off. They're like, whatever. That is very frustrating. I do get very, very frustrated like that. Like, I don't understand how they can do that. I know there's all of these things in the world of like, there's two types of people, right? And it'll be something like those who like coffee and those who are wrong. And I don't like coffee. I joke that there's like two things I hate in the world, and one of them is coffee. And I don't like coffee. The other one is cucumbers. Hate them. Like, I despise them. But I do think there's the people who can feel when it doesn't happen to them and still understand how bad it is, and the people that it has to happen to them before they understand how bad it is. And I hate making generalizations like that. I used to hate making any type of generalizations, but stereotypes, several of them are harmful. A lot of them are harmful. But if you say something like a rock star, what do you think of when you say rock star? Right? There is some truth in some, what we would call a stereotype. I think there's also another name, like what does it mean to be a rock star, right? Like, what does it mean to be an actor? It means you act either on stage or film, TV or film, right? There's things that go along with it. That doesn't mean that every single actor or every single rock star is exactly the same, but there's a general sort of, like if you say farmer, well, they work with the land, whether that is growing crops or whether it is with animals and livestock, right? So I don't know where that line of describing something versus a stereotype comes in. I think it's where it doesn't necessarily describe a thing, but it's an opinion of a thing. I think that might be where that changes. That'd probably be an interesting, I'm literally thinking about this right now, and my brain is like working it over. I think this would be an interesting topic to kind of think about. It's like, where does it go from being a stereotype, being like a description of something, to becoming like a harmful stereotype where it's not really a description, but people accept it as a description? That'd be kind of interesting. I'm probably going to have to think about that one a little bit more. This is what happens. I go down these little rabbit holes, and then my brain is like, well, what were we just talking about? We were talking about the two types of people. I don't understand. I once asked my dad, and I think I said this in a previous video, I once asked my dad, what's wrong with me? What's missing? And he said, nothing's missing in you. It's missing in them. And I hate saying that. But we're being confronted with entire swaths of our population unable to see past their own front door, their own need. And maybe it's not something that, maybe the thing that's missing is their needs, their basic needs are not being met, because when your basic needs are not being met, you can't focus on the next ones. So if we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, your basic needs are things like food and shelter and safety. And then as you move up the hierarchy of needs, like, then you need a job that's more fulfilling, you need friends and family and things like that. And then as you go up, then you get to the top, where I believe the top is like self-actualization, and you can really focus on becoming a better version of like a really incredible better version of yourself, and like mentally stimulating and just really cutting edge. A lot of time and energy can be spent on that. There's other levels within there. Maybe we'll do a video on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I should write that down. Maybe people's needs aren't being met. That would make a lot of sense, because if then they're focused solely on trying to meet those needs and all of their time and energy is on that, that means they're not able to look further to the next layer, right? To the next circle, to the next circle, to the next circle. And that would be an interesting one to think about. I don't have an answer for this stuff. And I think that's where my frustration comes in, is like, how do I help fix this? Because I see people looking to be part of communities, feeling like they're left behind, feeling like they're not being heard. And people do see you. People do hear you. Now, I'm never going to accept you blaming a separate population like immigrants for what's going on with you. I'm not. You're going to need to take a deep breath and actually look at what's going on in your life. Because 99% of the time, the person you're making your scapegoat, and I do this and have done this before too, the person you're making your scapegoat is not the problem. Occasionally they are. Very occasionally, individual people are the problem. But that would be individual people, not swaths of people. How do we get through? How do I make sure that people understand when I'm posting something and they can't see my face, can't hear my voice, that I'm not just spewing hate? Because I'm not. There's a very big difference between standing against someone hurting someone else, which is basic tenet of self-defense, and being an aggressor and saying, this person's done nothing to me, but I'm going to just be mean to them anyway because they're XYZ that they have no control over. That's hate. I don't do that. I hope I don't do that. I would be very upset with myself if people thought I did that, if I did something to make people think I do that. Now, I can be mad at people for their actions, because every single one of us is responsible for our own choices and our own actions. So it doesn't matter if someone else is over there doing something you don't like. If it's not hurting anyone, mind your business, right? Leave them to it. Let them be happy. If you're not happy in your life, that you have to try and take away their happiness, we need to fix your life that you're happy. So, because happy people don't go around trying to steal other people's happiness. Now, if someone comes into your life and tries to stop you from doing something for yourself, not imposing your will on others, but like, I wish to do this hobby, and someone comes along and tells me that hobby is bad and I can't do it, and that hobby hurts no one, okay, that's not okay, right? And if someone's doing that to you, I'm going to say the same thing to that person. Let people be happy about what they're happy about. Mind your business, right? How do I get that across? How do I juggle the emotions, the frustration, the not being heard? Because I don't feel like I'm being heard either at times, right? The anger that we have literally predicted certain things are going to happen, and now they're happening and people are shocked. That's so frustrating. Like, why didn't you listen? We literally told you. But you know what? People have to learn. They have to go through it. That's where this whole dichotomy of there's people who can understand it at a time. People have to go through it for themselves, right? There's that whole cycle of layers of learning, of no one is exactly the same. No one's been through the same things. No one's had the same experiences. No one's had the same pain and hardship in their life exactly the same as other people. And if you haven't been through certain things, it can be difficult. And does that mean we have to go through painful things? Does that mean we should let people lash out when they're angry because they're going through something and they're worried? Where do we find that line of, like, you're angry and you're upset and you feel like you're not being heard? That doesn't mean you get to hurt millions of people with this perpetuating of certain harmful isms, whether it is racism, sexism, I don't know what they call it, but like immigrantism. I'm sure there's a word for it to hate immigrants, whatever it is, right? Religion, right? Like if you don't like a certain religion, like whatever it is, how do we move forwards? How do you move forwards when a trust is broken? When you realize that people you have cared about would literally not have your back, that they would be okay with your rights being violated. It's really easy to go from hurt to anger and to speak out with anger, right? Not thinking. Like your emotion is speaking, not you. And there's a lot of that going on. So to bring this full circle right back to the beginning, anger and frustration and fear, they're not hate. They're not. And we have to stop labeling anything that someone says or everything that people are saying that you don't agree with as hate. And we also have to be open when people challenge the way we've said something. Hi. Don't do that. Rude. Rude. Do you want to come say hi? We have to be open when people challenge something we've said. And I think about it a lot. I don't want people to think that I'm sitting here hating, sitting here, just angry all the time. I'm not. How could I be with this boy? Hi. Frustrated, yes. Very frustrated. Hurt, 100%. But hate? There's very little I hate in this world. Truly, truly hate. It's a little more than coffee and cucumbers, but those two are the main two things. 100%. Absolutely. Well, if you made it this far, thank you. I hope this has given you some food for thought. I do realize that it's a bit of a contentious topic, so let's see where it goes. Thank you. If you made it this far, that was like 3 sentences that got meshed together there. If you made it this far, thank you. Be kind to yourself.